who was 18, came to the table to get a cigarette from her mom's, my Aunt Nella's pack. When Marina put her hand down on the package, Signora Cristina quickly snatched her hand and pulled her toward her. "Mamma mia, let me look at you. You are so beautiful. Your hair so thick and jet black. I have to dye mine now, and half of it is a wig. And your skin, my God, how I wish my skin still looked like that. But you're too thin. Men want meat, bones they throw to the dog." Meanwhile, I could hear my Aunt Nella calling, "Marina!" to get her attention. I looked over at my Aunt Nella, and from the look on her face, I could tell that she really didn't like Signora Cristina. Suddenly, the phone rang, and my cousin Marina ran to answer it. After about 30 minutes or so, the doorbell rang. A man was at the door, and Signora Cristina had to go. My uncles looked at each other and chuckled. My aunts looked at my uncles and each other and frowned. A couple hours later, it was just me and my aunts in the kitchen. My uncles had all moved to the living room to watch the hockey game. My cousin Marina came back to the kitchen. She sat in a chair just across the table from me. My Aunt Nella asked her if she had eaten. She said no. She wasn't hungry. She looked pale and sweaty and was complaining to my Aunt Nella that her head and her left eye hurt. I looked over at my cousin, and her face was white as a sheet. Her left eye began to swell, and Marina just went limp in her chair. She couldn't keep her head up. Her head kept falling backward, and her speech was slurred. Suddenly, I heard one of my aunts call, "Nella, look at Marina." My Aunt Nella stubbed out her cigarette in the nearest ashtray and grabbed her daughter Marina's head in her hands to look at her face. "That whore! I knew it! She put the eye on my daughter." I was sitting at the table, not knowing what the first word meant, and who and how someone put another eye on my cousin. My Aunt Nella did the sign of the cross on herself 3 times, so did all my other aunts at the table, and kissed the 18-karat gold crucifix hanging on the thin gold chain around her neck as she grabbed a shallow bowl and put some water from the sink in it and placed it on the table in front of my cousin, who looked like she was asleep on her chair. My aunt dropped olive oil into the bowl of water. She said words that sounded Italian to me, but I didn't recognize. Then she took 2 knives and began cutting the water and oil in the bowl. Now all my aunts were quietly praying to San Michele, St. Michael Archangel, to cast out the evil. My Aunt Nella's sister grabbed a handful of salt and sprinkled it around the kitchen floor. Another aunt grabbed the broom and swept the kitchen and then swept the salt and dust out the back door at the other end of the kitchen. My Aunt Nella then grabbed the bowl, spat in it, and tossed the contents out the back door. Her sister picked up a long black hair stuck to the chair Signora Cristina had occupied and placed it carefully onto a paper napkin. She folded it neatly and tucked it in the pocket of my Aunt Nella's apron. My godmother asked me if Signora Cristina gave me anything. I said, "No, she just put some perfume on my wrists." Before I could finish my sentence, my godmother lunged at me and whisked me over to the sink to wash my hands and wrists. When I turned to look at my cousin Marina, she was sitting up in her chair, and the swollen eye had gone back to normal. Her mother was handing her a tiny glass of wine. "Drink some blessed wine, Marina, to get rid of anything that may still be inside you." Then, everything went back to normal. My cousin took off to go dancing with her friends, and my aunts began frying the dough to make pizza fritta. Definition of Italian witchcraft practice. First, I need to make one thing perfectly clear. Never in a million years would anyone present that night ever describe their practice as stregoneria, witchcraft. Nor would any respectable member of my family or community ever self-identify as a strega, witch. Never. Occasionally, taken off guard, they may have implied it. However, if asked about it later, they would categorically deny it. At the very most, they would perhaps admit to being superstitious. In all my learning, and for lack of a better word, apprenticeship under the matriarchs of my family and community, even if someone in our community was a known maga or mago, practitioners of magic, no one would ever utter their name when speaking about them. Very much like in those famous...